In today's day and age, there's a overload of low quality content that's being pushed out. Everyone and their uncle is a content creator, which means it's hard to really know who to trust and who's just regurgitating information just for the sake of views. And I'm not going to pretend I'm any different. I started posting content when I was 16 years old. I was just regurgitating everything my coaches said. I had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. I even started a coaching business when I was 17, which I had no business doing. So I've been on both sides, creating content that I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I've also had lived experience. I've been in business just over 4 years now. I signed a $24,000 deal when I was 17. I now run a company with 9 employees, and recently I bulked up from 130 pounds to 170 pounds as a hard gainer while running a business. So I've actually been able to make some forward progress in my life, and I boiled it down to 3 skill sets, which I'm going to teach you in this video. Now, the first skill is being able to trust your own word. If you can't do what you say you're going to do, you can't control your own mind. You go through life with zero control. And in my opinion, most problems can be solved by just doing what you say you're going to do. Do you go to bed when you say you're going to go to bed? Do you turn off your phone when you say you're going to stop scrolling? And this is one of those skills that either leads you to a upward spiral or a downward spiral. If you can actually do what you say you're going to do, that's when you end up thinking things into existence. You think you're going to do something, you say you're going to do it, and you end up doing it. And you start making tons of forward progress. But on the opposite side, if you can't even trust your own word, that's when you start snoozing your alarm, scrolling for hours on end. All these bad habits generally stem from you not being able to do what you say you're going to do. And when you're a kid, most of your problems are external. It's like you have a curfew or you can't get a ride anywhere. But as you grow up, you start to realize most of the problems that you're facing are just a battle, you versus you. It's doing what you say you're going to do. And an area that I've noticed this shows up is, for example, at the gym. I'll be doing what's called a drop set. So basically, you have a heavy weight. You work a certain amount of reps till you fail. Then you drop the weight, fail it, drop the weight again without any rest. So it's really brutal. It's very intensive. And that's one of those things where you have to be able to trust your own word. If you say you're going to do 12 reps, but you start getting uncomfortable at rep 5 or 6, it takes so much discipline to actually follow through on your word, even though your body is screaming, don't do this, pushing past it. And it's at those times where I get the best pump. But it's one of those things where if you can't even trust your own word, you're just going to work till mild discomfort and then stop. So if you can master this skill, you'll already be ahead of 99% of people. Not because it's complicated, it's just because most people can't actually trust their own word. Now, the second skill is risk taking. This is one of those timeless skills that isn't going anywhere. It's not going to get replaced by AI. Business owners have been taking risks for thousands of years. And that's one of those skills that's going to separate the business owners from the employees. And I put myself in one of these positions about 9 months ago. I had taken a ton of risks. Business had basically flopped. I had no money in my bank account. I was basically at ground zero. And I reached a point where I either had to take the safe route, go get a job and try and stack up more cash, or I could put that money on a credit card, risking it. This was money that I didn't have for a potential upside. And obviously I was, really nervous at the time. I had no money. I was really, stressed out and kind of depressed, but I ended up putting $3,000 on the credit card over like 2 or 3 weeks. And I ended up making it back. I made $6,000 from a deal that I closed. So I profited about $3,000. But that experience made me realize most people are not willing to do that. Like most people are not willing to take those uncomfortable risks. For example, I was recently talking with someone. He's got $30,000 saved in the bank. He's working a 9-to-5 job. He hates it. He's sick of his situation. But he's still not willing to invest $500 from his savings into starting his business. And it's a lot of times it's just fear disguised as playing it safe, when in reality most of the progress you're going to make, most of the forward progress is always going to be on the other side of an uncomfortable risk. And something that's helpful to remember is that fear generally exists in the vague. It's when you want to take that risk, but you're always scared of something. But if you actually play it out and walk through like the actual worst case scenario, most of the time the worst case scenario is not that bad and the potential upside is way higher. But oftentimes people don't end up taking the risks that they should be taking just because they don't actually think through like what is the actual downside. And oftentimes not taking the risk is a bigger risk in the long run when you realize any progress that you're going to make comes from taking those risks in the first place. And this is one of those skills that you never really finished learning. You just get better at it over time. I remember the first few risks that I took that were big risks in the business. I think 2 out of 3 just didn't pay off, and I was broke multiple times. But as you have more time in risk taking, as you get more reps with this skill, you end up getting better at it. You start spotting common patterns, and you end up just getting better over time. So even if you've taken big risks and it's failed, just realize that's a skill that you can still keep training to get better at it over time. Now, the third skill is delayed gratification. A wise man once said, "Be ruthless with the inputs and patient with the outputs." This is one of those quotes that I live by. And in the times that we're living in today, everyone just wants everything so fast. There's no delayed gratification. For example, you look at a lot of the mainstream marketing, all these coaches and gurus who are running ads. A lot of times they'll say something like, make 10K in 90 days or you don't pay. And a lot of this, marketing and a lot of this language is only used because that's what gets attention and that's what actually gets clicks, when in reality that's just unrealistic, and the actual progress you're going to make is just going to take time. It's going to be a lot of failures, a lot of risk taking, and a lot of just time in the game learning, but that generally just doesn't happen overnight. And if it does happen overnight, it's either not going to last, or what's more often the case is that all these, big success stories that happen overnight, they didn't actually happen overnight. It was just they didn't document anything, and then they try to make it look like it happened overnight, again, just for marketing. A lot of people say that they think long term, but if you actually look at the day to day, let's say you're faced with 2 options. One of them is you have a guaranteed 10K a month business today, and that's, you're capped at 10K a month, but you get it today. On the other hand, you have a 100K a month business, but you have to wait 5 years to get it. Most people would say, I'll wait 5 years. 100K a month is a lot more than 10K a month. But if you actually look at their actions don't reflect that. A lot of times, I did this when I first started off. I was always chasing the quick, get rich quick schemes. I was always trying to find a silver bullet. But in reality, that just meant I was cutting corners. I was taking the path of least resistance, which meant I wasn't actually stacking and compounding any skills. And that led to me switching 3 different business models. I ended up switching like 12 different niches, and it slowed me down a lot. And it was only from sticking to one business model for the past 1.5 years now that I've actually been able to see consistent progress. And now we're able to start putting systems in place, hiring team members, and start seeing consistent compounding growth. But that doesn't happen by just chasing the silver bullet, trying to find a get-rich-quick scheme, because in reality, it just doesn't exist. And that applies to business, but it also applies to, for example, fitness. Like I mentioned, I bulked up from 130 pounds to 170 pounds in just less than 6 months. And on paper, it seems easy, but I'm a hard gainer. Like, I cannot gain weight for the life of me. And then on top of that, I was also running a business. So if you've ever bulked before, basically you're feeding your body so much food that it takes a lot of energy to process it and break it down, which meant I was getting so much brain fog and tiredness while I was trying to run my business. So my business definitely took a hit, but it was one of those things that at the end of the bulk, when I actually achieved what I set out to do, that I realized that that's why it's actually valuable. That's why a good physique is valuable. Same thing with gold. That's why those things hold any weight. It's because it's rare. It's because people aren't actually willing to do the work for a long period of time with that delayed gratification. So it applies to business, physique, even YouTube. Like, I just started posting on YouTube recently, and I was researching just the YouTube algorithm in general. And I haven't found a single person on YouTube who's posted over 100 videos and hasn't seen success. But the thing is, most people don't even post 100 videos. They end up posting a couple videos, 2 or 3, don't see any success, and then they end up quitting 3 or 4 videos in. So if you can get good at one skill, just get good at delayed gratification, still putting in the inputs, being ruthless with the inputs, but patient with the outputs, because that's when you're going to see, compounding progress. Again, the overnight success just doesn't exist. It's either, it does happen rarely, but they haven't built the skill of delayed gratification. So it's just a quick high, and then it generally just ends up crashing down. Or you have people who look like an overnight success, but in reality, they've just been compounding and not documenting it. and then they just show the success, when in reality it was just years of hard work that they put in beforehand, which they didn't show you. So that's the 3 skills that have actually helped me make consistent progress. Again, they're not a secret, it's nothing big, it's nothing new, but most people aren't doing this. And the people who are successful, these are the people who are actually just doing them day in and day out. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, drop a subscribe. I'll try to make more videos talking about like how I actually go about implementing some of these skills that I talked about in this video. So that's it for this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.